Okay. Welcome back to another edition of the Three Stooges. I'm Joe Davidson, longtime of the Sacramento Bee, Chris Jackson of West Coast Preps, Jordan Georgeson of Gold Country Media. We cover high school sports up and down the state, including topics. We have topics today, and we'll talk about our local colleges if there's something that might be of regional interest, and that includes Shaquille O'Neal, the 15-time NBA All-Star, the Hall of Famer. We all see his large mass of personality and being on NFL or NBA broadcast, NBA Tonight. He is the general manager for the Sacramento State men's basketball team. What does that mean? Well, this is a new trend where you get a general manager to help kind of just facilitate things, and it's an unpaid, voluntary position. I think it's really a favor for Mike Bibby. They were fierce rivals in the NBA, as we all know, but they're friends, and Bibby's coaching one of Shaq's sons, so that's probably going to ensure that he'll get playing time and maybe even start. But no, it's a good thing. He's not going to be on campus. There's not going to be a press conference anytime soon at all, from what I understand. But he's going to be a mentor of sorts on how to handle pressure of basketball and off the court things and how do you market yourself. And I think Shaq's going to be big in the community on sponsorships and money talks. We've talked about that. Sacramento State basketball has been Division One since 1991, two winning seasons. So why not go for something different, something fresh? They'll move out of the nest, the worst college basketball venue in all of college basketball. I won't just say Division One, I think all levels, and they're going to move into the Well, which is next to Hornet Stadium, the football stadium. 3,200 seats will be there. That's fantastic. Mike Bibby said, and we said him on this podcast, I'm going to bring in big people. And we didn't know it'd be enormous, like it's 7'1" and 300 something pounds, but I think this is cool. And we're also going to talk about the CIF, the governing body, California Interscholastic Federation. Is there overreach? Is it done too much? What's going on with eligibility type things or coaches ejected. I'm going to totally throw to Jordan on this. He broke the story yesterday on the Del Oro baseball team. And then also on the theme of Del Oro, I checked out the spring game for UC Davis football, and Caden Pinnock looks like he's going to be the starter. He's the pride of Del Oro High School and Loomis of Placer County. He had a scare the other day. He went down with an ankle early, and everybody's heart drops. Like, oh, please don't let it be a knee ligament blowout or an Achilles. It's just a high ankle sprain. This guy is fantastic. We'll talk about him. We all know about him. But I'm going to throw it to Jordan right now. Jordan, you had news yesterday for the Del Oro baseball team. People are upset. Could really impact the team. Tell us what happened. Did you talk to the CIF? Just break it all down for us and what's going on with the Del Oro Golden Eagles and a mountain of forfeits here.
So Del Oro baseball entered the week ranked number 2 in the Sac Joaquin section on Max Preps, which is a big deal because the way the playoff rankings work is they were staring at the top seed in Division 2 with Rockland going D1 and winning the SFL most likely. But this ruling came down where they had to forfeit 8 of their 17 wins due to an administrative error. So what happened was in Del Oro's game against Roseville, an assistant coach was ejected from the game. He served his 1-game suspension, but part of the rule with that situation is they have to go on this website. I can't remember the name of it, but you basically have to check a box that your suspension was served. I think sometimes they make you have like a corrective action. I would imagine if it's just getting tossed from a baseball game, and we see how often that happens, that's probably the one sport where I'm like, there's probably no need for a corrective action. It's just, ejections happen more in that sport than others. But basically, they forgot to fill out the box saying that he had served his suspension. So this made him ineligible, and the Sac Joaquin section determined that Del Oro had to forfeit 8 wins, which drops them from 17-8 to 9-16, and it moves them from 3rd place in the SFL to 7th, and they're 3-12 in league play now. The really big thing that had a lot of people asking questions was the rule that was violated was Rule 503M, which states that before a coach may return to participate in a contest following a multiple contest disqualification for any of the above infractions, they basically have to let the commissioner know that they've filled the suspension and they've met with the coach to discuss future behavioral expectations. So there's been, I counted on the section website, there were 15 instances of Rule 503M being broken, including one by Del Oro previously in the academic year. It was in the fall with the football team. And keep in mind, this rule has to do with players and coaches being ineligible. So there are only two cases that resulted in a team forfeiting contest, Del Oro being one of them. And I reached out to the section commissioner because it did seem like a strange thing. And I asked him, and he said the reason why is because it's not a program by program basis, it's a school by school basis. So because this was Del Oro's second infraction, that is where the 8 suspensions come. Now, I think the big debate with this, and we can get into it, is 8 forfeits for an unchecked box does seem a little bit harsh in a way. That being said, it is the section's rules, and I do think there needs to be some type of punishment, but I think the debate here is the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. The section is following the letter of the law, but it's kind of one of those situations where it feels like the punishment doesn't necessarily fit the crime. If you look on Max Preps, it has been a long time since Del Oro has had 17 wins. I think the most they've had as long as Max Preps dates back is 18. So, this was a team going for their first 20-win season in 2 decades, maybe even a little more than that. And that feels like it's kind of out the window. And I know it can't take away what's happened on the field and the playoff implications of this. It doesn't seem like it will have a ton because if you guys remember in 2023, it happened to Tracy football where they went 8-2, but they had 4 forfeits. They went to 4-6. They still got the 7 seed in Division II. They hosted in the first round. They lost to Downey that year, but it didn't stop them from hosting. I would be very surprised if this stops Del Oro from hosting. They might get bumped down a seed line, but talking to Section Commissioner Mike Garrison, he said, it's all part of the conversation. They do take into account what's happened on the field, but it's basically these are the bylaws and they do have to enforce them. Del Oro is in the process of an appeal. And I know, for me personally, I think this is a situation. I know we've kind of talked about what we feel like it should be. I feel like definitely you gotta, punish them for this in a way because it's the second infraction, but I don't necessarily think the players should be the ones being punished. I think maybe, this is why we have these appeal committees is so they can hear the story out and hear the human side of things. Personally, if it were me on it, I would say, maybe forfeit the first game that this coach played in. But if you can prove that he served this suspension on time, which it sounds like Del Oro can do, in my opinion, I think this needs to end with, the forfeits go away or maybe one forfeit stays and you can't play a home playoff game this year, something like that. I don't think the kids should necessarily be getting punished from 8 wins that they've earned on the field. And, in a way, it almost feels more like they're a demonstrative punishment where, yes, you're taking away these 8 wins, but if they're still going to make the postseason, which is what it sounds like, and you still played those games and those results happened on the field, it feels like kind of more of a technicality than anything. And Chris, I'll throw to you. I know it's crazy we're talking about this over an unchecked box too, because I know the section's not perfect in terms of keeping their stuff updated as well.
Yeah, so I'll open with 2 things before I kind of give my thoughts. Is the first, there may be just a little difference with the Tracy football situation, only because Tracy's they only had to forfeit non-league games. So they forfeited those first few games that they won, right? You look back at their schedule that year, they did actually get some really good wins on the schedule that year. They beat Kimball, they beat Sheldon, Mount House, they beat Downey the first time. But then league play, they still go 4-1, finish strong. Non-league, one of those non-forfeitures was a really close loss to Rockland football as well. So you look at that, helped their case. They did lose, but Tracy, only difference with them in Del Oro is because of when the forfeitures take place, which will probably go into effect a little bit. Now, if Garrison says that they're going to take everything into account, then heck, there's still a chance Del Oro gets a home game. Heck, there's a chance they get 2 home games at this point with what they've done, what they've shown. But I'm glad I'm not Mike Garrison. I'm glad I'm not Will DeBoard, anybody on that staff. That's not a job I want. I don't want to have that kind of job. I like what I do, but I would preferably give out a fine. I think give out a fine to the school, the administration, because I don't like the fact of punishing the kids, especially when they had nothing to do with this. They weren't the ones that left a box unchecked. They're not the ones that made this mistake twice in a year. And the first mistake happened with football, right? Jordan, as you said, the second one is with baseball. Two different teams, two different sets of kids. I understand the letter of the law. All I ask is if you're going to do letter of the law, just be consistent. I haven't been in the Sac Joaquin section. I haven't covered it as long as you, Jordan, as long as you, Joe. So I don't know if there's been consistency. I'm not going to speculate that one bit. I've seen other sections there has been some consistency with stuff, but I don't know what it's been like out here, this being my second year. But I'd rather do a fine, punish the adults that maybe punish isn't the right word, but have the right consequences for what happens, right? Don't do it to the kids that have won all these games on the field the right way, haven't made any of these mistakes.
Oh, that's it's compelling information, and and people will say, no matter what high school in this section, the Sac Joaquin section, it's the second largest of the 10 that make up California, that the governing body of the Sac Joaquin section, Mike Garrison and his staff, they're out to get us. They're always hard on us. They're always hard on us. Well, he's especially hard on Del Oro because it was a rival of Rockland where he used to work, Rockland High School. You talk to Rockland people and they'll tell you, no, he's really hard on us. Folsom people, oh, he's really hard on us. He's out to get everybody. What the governing body for the CIF overall and for each section is, they don't make the rules, they enforce the rules. And I think Jordan, Commissioner Garrison probably told you, and I think I was telling you earlier, I said he's probably going to mention that these were bylaws put into motion and voted on by the member schools, so they're just enforcing them. I remember Del Oro football went to a state bowl, and Jeff Walters' first year alumni coach replaces Casey Taylor. I think it was 2018. Win a section championship, win a NorCal championship, get to the state finals, and then they lose in the final minutes. And then it comes to light that Del Oro had an ineligible player. They pulled up a kid from the lower levels to be on kickoff returns in a 50-point blowout. And somebody waited until after the season to rat him out. And I remember talking to Garrison, and kudos to him talking to media about this. And he goes, hey, if people want change, they're going to have to talk about changes on the punishment. These are the rules that were put in place. And that was pretty contentious. And Dan Gallardo was the principal at Del Oro then, and I talked to him on the phone. He goes, "There's no way I'm peeling off a Letterman's jacket, the section championship patch that these kids earn." And so those titles were vacated. So I think Commissioner Garrison has a good point that people overlook. It's not this intent to grind teams because you hate kids. No, I think if you're in teaching and coaching and media and governing body, you don't hate kids. You're trying to have a good opportunity for kids, certainly, but you got to stick with the rules. So there's got to be a wiggle room. I agree with both of you. There's got to be some kind of human element. I like what Jordan said. Maybe you forfeit, or have some kind of discussion. This is why these appeals are important. And appeals are usually retired athletic directors from the Sac Joaquin section, people who understand what's going on. They'll hear both sides. Usually these appeals, these people have a soft spot for student athletes because they were one, and they've coached and been an administrator. But I think, maybe the more fitting punishment is, um, you don't host any playoff games this year, and you're on probation. Maybe the coach has to sit out a game because he wasn't the one who got ejected, the head coach. But there's got to be something. And Jordan, I'm going to throw back to you. Parents, followers, alums, they see your story on Gold Country Media, and they were jumping your case as if you were already implicating the Del Oro people, and their suggestion for a revised headline was, blaming on the CIF clerical and all that. Well, you can only get so much stuff in a headline, but Jordan, these people care, and they're upset and they're frustrated. I don't think it's going to deny them a playoff berth, but it could certainly impact their seeding, like you said. But the parents are up in arms too, and I can understand that. But you're not the reason they should be upset.
Don't shoot the messenger situation. I mean, I don't like breaking bad news about stuff like this. I'm not, contrary to what people say, I'm not in this business to bash the kids or hate on kids. I don't have a vendetta. I don't write my articles to get clickbait or anything like that. But, I mean, Joe and Chris, you know as well as I do, Del Oro and Loomis is a passionate fan base, and sometimes when, they get upset about things, their anger gets misdirected, and it happens to everyone. But they are up in arms about this, and I understand their gripe. Now there are some people that are. I saw saying like, I hope the section takes the comments on these posts into consideration. I'm like, well, I really hope the section doesn't make their decisions based off the comments people leave on Facebook. That would be a very alarming precedent to set. But I understand what they're saying in terms of they hope they can see this for what it is, that the players don't deserve to be punished for the mistakes of adults. And, like you said, Joe, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Del Oro playoff wise, because, I'm not Garrison didn't say one way or another if Del Oro would be in or out because, he doesn't necessarily know how this seating meeting is going to go. Personally, I would be very surprised if they were left out completely for this, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some weird seedings with this. And the question is, are they going to see Del Oro for what they are? Are they going to see them for what their record is? Or somewhere in between. I mean, if you give them a low seed because they're coming into the postseason at 10-16 now, then you're kind of in a weird way punishing, the 3 seed or the 4 seed or whoever has to play them in the first round that necessarily shouldn't be playing the team that was going to be the 1 seed coming into Monday. Whereas if you give them a top seed still, you're kind of in a way saying that these sanctions don't matter, this punishment doesn't matter, these forfeits don't matter. So I really am interested to see where Del Oro lands in the bracket, if they're still in, because that is going to kind of in a weird way, it might kind of set a precedent for when things like this happen in the future.
Yeah, this is a
Going to
tough.
be really interesting.
I like what Joe said too. I don't think they're gonna make it personal about things. I mean, I think everybody has favorite people. You have favorite people that you talk to, interact with, right? But as long as it doesn't affect your job, I don't think it will in this situation either. That's why there's the appeals process in place. That's why you hear out their side of the story. If there wasn't, that would be a little shaky kind of ground. But they're gonna hear them out, and maybe you come to some middle grounds. A lot of things can change. Maybe Del Oro also makes a compelling point in the appeals process, and that could also maybe it doesn't win them back the appeal in terms of forfeitures, but that could also kind of give them the side of, hey, here's everything that's happened, here's what's transpired, and maybe that can also might not benefit the forfeitures, but maybe it still kind of gives them some leeway when it comes to seedings, postseason stuff. There's a lot that can happen. We've got seedings coming out, I believe. Joe, what is it, this Saturday afternoon?
I think so. And the Sac Joaquin Section baseball playoffs start next week, and the Del Oro Golden Eagles. When you're competing in the Sierra Foothill League, you're doing something, and it's going to be interesting. Jordan, as we close on out on this segment, when is the appeal? And it's got to happen quick. I would think it's any day. People could read his story and Gold Country Media. You have great insight and good stuff there. Well, when's the appeal?
My understanding is it's already underway. I don't necessarily know when the decision will be finalized, but Garrison did say that, they are trying to get a decision finalized before the end of the regular season because this does have a big impact on the postseason. And I'll say this too. I was on the phone with Del Oro's head coach, Jordan Whitmore, last night for about 10, 15 minutes, just kind of getting refreshed on the situation, getting some new info if I need it. And wherever Del Oro is seated, if they make it in, I will say that is a team that is using this to fuel them and put a chip on their shoulder. And that is a team that I don't necessarily know if I'd want to line up across no matter where they're seated.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And other things we're going to talk about on this podcast with the Three Stooges is Sac State football has, I think, nearly 40 FCS transfers. I'm going to bounce that over to Chris Jackson here in a moment. Del Oro softball is doing great things. A lot of Loomis and Placer County stuff here. I'm going to go back to Caden Pennick here. We all remember how good this guy was in high school. He was a magical football player. He created plays with his feet. His instincts, his feel of the game. Jordan knows exactly what I'm talking about. In baseball, basketball, gritty, tough leader. He is feisty, he is fierce. He'll battle teammates. He'll battle coaches. But all in a good spirit of things. He's not getting thrown off teams or anything. He's already been something of a leader for UC Davis, and he redshirted last year, and he's a freshman. So He has an MRI today. Coach Tim Plow is telling me, but he's likely going to be the starter unless it's a season-ending injury. It doesn't appear so. I talked to him after the spring game. He goes, "No, it's a high ankle sprain," but he was pretty upset. He's so competitive, and he's inspired by his cousin, also of Del Oro roots, and Stone Smart, who we've talked about on this podcast. He's with the San Diego Chargers, plays at Del Oro. So what a great role model. It's really kind of cool. We like local storylines. We like it when local guys are doing well at local colleges, the junior colleges, the large colleges, the mid majors or whatever. So I think it's just fantastic, great opportunity for Caden Pinnick working on a story this week for the Sacramento Bee. And Jordan, I'm going to throw it to you. But Coach Tim Plow at UC Davis said this guy's special. He could be one of our all-time great quarterbacks, and they've had a few. They could see that already. You know what I'm talking about. This guy competes. He finds a way. It was a great get for UC Davis. They both seem to fit hand in hand because he's a player.
Yeah, his high school's tape speaks for himself itself. I got to cover Caden for 3 years when he was at Del Oro, and this kid is one of the best pure athletes I have gotten to cover, if not the best. He was called the high school Mahomes for a reason. He made how I can't even count how many plays he made where it looked like he was going to get sacked 3, 4, 5 times, and just finds a way to wait for a guy to get open or scramble into the open field and turn nothing into something, if not a huge play. He basically carried that Del Oro team his senior year to the section semifinals single-handedly. He had that incredible triple overtime game against Jesuit, which I think all three of us were at. I'm not shocked in the slightest that he's already potentially going to be named the starter, and he redshirted last year, correct? So he would still be a freshman, I
Yes, he
believe, on the
did.
roster. So I
Right.
mean, I'm not shocked at all by this. I told some people that, and I firmly believe this, that I think if he were 3 inches taller, he would have been a national recruit. I think he got under recruited because he was undersized. Um, I mean, if you want to know how good this kid is, he won SFL Offensive Player of the Year twice, and that was over Austin Mack, who he beat out for the starting role at Del Oro. And Mack ended up going on to Folsom, and he's playing at Alabama now. And the other player he beat out for SFL Offensive Player of the Year is a guy by the name of Ryder Lyons. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. So that just shows how freakishly athletic this kid is. One of the best quarterbacks I've seen. A great point guard too. Has a great glove in baseball. But I'm not shocked at all that he's going to be the starter at UC Davis, or could be the starter at UC Davis. And I mean, I might be seeing you at a few Aggie games this fall if that's the case, Joe.
Oh, he's so gifted, and he's got a quarterback coach of sorts in Tim Plow, who played quarterback in high school, played quarterback at UC Davis, and so you have to have that connection. And this is how committed he was. So he was angry, Caden Pinnick, and he can be he's inspired by any slight that he wasn't recruited hard enough. And so he Coach Tim Plow, UC Davis, reached out to him last winter and said, "Come and visit me for an hour." And they spoke, and they were all in. And then he went. I got to write this down because it's going to be good for my story. And then he went and go watch him play a basketball game against Folsom. And Dan Lanning was there at that game checking out Ryder Lyons, the football player who plays basketball. And Caden Pinnick was also in that game. Caden Pinnick had 42 points. And Coach Plow was telling Dan Lanning, the Oregon Ducks coach, he goes, "Stay off of my guy. You could have the Folsom guy." So when you go out and watch a football guy just light up in basketball, you're just thinking this guy's just got magic to him. So, and Chris, you've seen him. We applaud guys who multi-sport, and he's playing a little bit of baseball over there at UC Davis too. So this guy is going to master everything he does, including his studies.
Yeah, he's a kid where you say that fires a little too much, but everybody is a product of their surroundings, what they've been through. And I'm not going to go through everything the kid's been through. He's opened up about some of it, but he and his family have been through some adversity. He's learned a lot from his mother, who has been a single parent. But I remember interviewing him one time, and he was so gracious enough to take 30 minutes of his time when he was doing homework at some sort of really tough math homework right there. He had his pencil in his hands, had the textbook right there. I could see it on the Zoom, but I was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I don't want to hurt whatever your 4 point something GPA is. I know he was a great student as well. He's dealt with some stuff. He's got a chip on his shoulder, but you're not going to meet a more competitive kid. You see it when he loses, you see it when he wins. I'd rather have that than than a guy that doesn't care. It's no surprise that he's gotten to this point. Jordan, you mentioned that Jesuit game. That football performance is one of the best I've ever seen. 330 passing yards, won in overtime. It felt like backyard football. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Some people say backyard football, oh, that's kind of disrespectful. There's no real flow to it. No, that's just how good he was. He made the game look way too easy, like a cheat code, like some of those guys you probably create on the college football games. The way he evaded pressure, threw off balance on 3rd and 20, 4th and 20, and just make something out of nothing. Put the ball in the perfect spot, could run, could throw. This is someone that the talent alone and the competitiveness, there's no surprise that he's the front runner for the UC Davis starting job. And he's also still on the baseball roster as well there too for UC Davis. This is a kid that was first team all Sacramento by us in football and basketball. A great baseball player. Joe, I think you had him first team all Metro, multiple sports. That goes to show you this is a kid that he's a all-time type athlete. Any region he would
He
play in,
sure
all-timer.
He sure is. And never underestimate a guy with a lot to play for. And this is going to segue into our NFL draft recap. We had a great local haul in the NFL draft, which just got completed in Green Bay of all historic venues. And we think of Cameron Scatterbo. And he ran for 6,100 yards in his high school career, most ever in Sac Joaquin section, 69 touchdowns. He had 3,500 yards as a junior, won a state 5A championship, 393 yards and 3 touchdowns and a 3-point win in an overflow crowd at home. Rio Linda High School loves they love their student athletes and their athletes at youth ball all the way up. And then he goes to Sacramento State, does more great things there, sets rushing records, and does the same thing at Arizona State. Fourth round draft pick with the New York Giants. Oh, that's too low. No, man, there are that many guys in the draft. This guy will make this roster because he's ferocious. He could stiff arm, he could throw the ball, he could punt, he could catch, does it all. So kudos to Cam Scatterbo, who had one scholarship offer out of high school, and that was the Sacramento State. We had two guys in the defensive line trenches who were picked in the second round. Really cool. UCLA edge rusher Femi Oladeju out of UCLA by way of Casumes Oaks. The Oak Grove Unified School District was in the second round by the Tennessee Titans. How about that? His teammate will be a guy in the offensive line in Jackson Slater, the three-time All-American at Sacramento State, played all 5 line positions. Also in the second round from Sacramento, going to the Kansas City Chiefs, Omar Norman Lott, a run-stopping powerhouse defensive tackle, by way of the Grant Pacers, another player going to the NFL draft out of Grant. Grant has more guys going into the NFL draft than any local program in the last 30 years. So really, really amazing. It's hard to make these teams. It's just really cool. We have all kinds of coverage on sacbee.com if you want to check that out. And we're also going to talk about people when they misread us. So I ran something on story on Norman or Omar Norman Lott, and somebody roasted me and said, you didn't cover him. You didn't give him any love. The school didn't care about him. You didn't care about him. You're just jumping on it now because you don't care just to get clout. Clout. So I wrote back and I said, look, we don't use people and we don't clout. I don't even know what clout is, but that's not us. And he just went on and on and on. And I said, well, I have a question for you. Why did he leave the football team at Grant after 6 games his senior year? Wouldn't go there. Wouldn't touch it. I don't know what happened. I don't think it was an injury. Maybe it was the butting of heads, but the Grant Pacers certainly wished him well, and he's done quite well. So, that same kind of theme. Oh, the CIF is out to get kids. Well, the Sacramento Bee or local media are out to get kids. No, man, we do the best we can. So we're going to debunk, denounce, and dismiss any of that kind of rubbish thinking. We don't take time to sit here and go, I think we'll ignore this kid no more than the governing body of high school sports are going to say, why don't we stick it to that team and that team, those kind of things. So that's part of our gig. We get it, but great local draft, and we're going to have more guys down the road. This area is not slowing down in any of these sports, so really kind of cool.
I got
What
no,
were you
I don't think
gonna?
I don't think I can say it any better than you did, Joe. I'm just excited to watch Cam Scatterbo. That was one of the best picks in the entire draft.
Yeah, I went to the New York Giants. There was a great job by the Arizona media. He did the draft party was in Arizona, in Tempe, where he's been living as an Arizona State um, player, and he broke down crying. This has meant everything to him, and I did a big blowout story on him last week on just the making of Cam Scatterbo. He was kind of a legend in youth football. And then by the time he got to high school, they already knew who he was. And Jack Garceau, the longtime coach, was telling me in a great flashback moment. I said, "When did you know this guy was great?" He goes, "First day of spring drills, sophomore year. We have no pads, no gear, and we're running drills. And if he didn't like how we finished, let's do it again, coach." And he goes, "Boy, I like that in immediate imposing of will." And he goes, "Most competitive guy I'd ever seen and been around." And he went home and told his wife, and he goes, "Boy, we have something here. We have something really cool," and he's backed it up. So that's great. And last topic on this, but we think about how hard it is to get a full scholarship, and then how hard it is to start in college, and then how hard it is to even be on the draft radar. And then you get drafted. There's only 7 rounds. There used to be 20 rounds, 15 rounds, things like that. So every NFL training camp starts with 100 guys. Then they pale it down to 53. It's so hard. And then the next year, you have a whole new crop of draftees. So wow, wow, wow. And we'll see. This was the best local draft, I believe, in 10 years. 2015, Shaq Thompson Grant went in first round to Carolina Panthers. He's still in the NFL. Eric Armstead out of Elk Grove, Pleasant Grove High, was a first round pick for the 49ers. He's the NFL Man of the Year, and he was there in Green Bay to announce the Jacksonville Jaguars pick because he's now with Jacksonville. So pretty good staying power, and it's hard to get drafted. So kudos to those guys. And let's go back to softball, Placer County, kind of a theme there. Jordan catches up to speed. The Delaware softball team, you've talked about them. They've got a great 1-2 pitching staff. They took on Destiny Christian Academy, the former Capital Christian. Great non-league scheduling. What happened there? And how do you like Delore's chances of making a serious run in the playoffs?
I think I'm done. I didn't have, serious doubts. I knew this team was going to take a step forward this year. I'll be the first to admit I didn't think they were going to be 22-1 and number 19 in the nation at this point in the season. So hey, hand up, bulletin board material, I guess, for DO. I was wrong on that one. But I mean, what they've done is just incredible. Every big test they've had this year, they've passed. I mean, I think the first big test was Ponderosa. That was a good measuring stick. Okay, you beat them. Well, then you go out and you beat Pioneer, another good measuring stick. Then you go beat Sheldon, another good one. Then you have back-to-back wins over Whitney and Rockland. They lose that first game to Oak Ridge, but then they come back by blanking East Nicholas, who's been a powerhouse. And they just keep rolling. I mean, they've allowed more than 2 runs just once in their last like 11 or 12 games or something ridiculous like that. But Destiny Christian, I mean, winning that game the way they did, Chris, you were there with me. That was an impressive performance, going with both pitchers, and then going into Oak Ridge, winning that one 4-2. Michaela Finn, 16 strikeouts in that game. I mean, every test this team comes up with, they find a way to pass it. And then here's what's scary about it is you look at their batting order right now, 1 through 9. Well, I guess we'll start. Finn looks like one of the best pitchers in the section. She's a sophomore, but their batting order in this Oak Ridge game, it's junior, senior, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, sophomore, freshman. I mean, almost this entire team is coming back next season. I mean, they're losing a power bat, Navi Davidson, a great leader in Delaney Osborne, but I mean, there's no reason to think this team is going anywhere anytime soon. Sean Erickson has always found ways to win with the talent he has, but I think they've been one of the best stories in this area they were last place in the SFL last year, and now they are 22-1 in top 20 in the country. I mean, that kind of turnaround is almost unheard of in 1 year, and then doing it with half your starting lineup being freshmen and sophomores is even crazier.
When you have a leader like Sean Erickson, an adult like that around your team, it's easy to see why this team comes together like this. He's just inspirational, motivational. He hates to talk about himself, Jordan. I don't know, you and I both spoke with him even off the record for 20 minutes after that Destiny Christian game, and I was fired up talking to him, right? Just the way he speaks. But He's a selfless leader. He's a servant leader. And you look at that team, that's the way they are. Ava Messina moving in from Rockland has been a great addition. That 1-2 punch on the mound. Her and Michaela Finn, a sophomore, are opposites. One's a righty, one's a lefty. One throws different types of pitches than the other. One goes in, one goes out. It's so many different things, but they just match each other and they win. It's hard enough to get one great pitcher at this level, but to have two like they do, give them a leg up in any kind of playoff matchup when you get to the sections, when they get to NorCals. And you add on the bats, 35 combined home runs as a team. You've got one girl in Abby Davidson going to Utah Tech with 12. A freshman like Emma Johnson has 7. Yeah, they literally have everything. I would not be shocked to see them play in June. But let's just say that they could play that Saturday in June. What is that, June 7th? And they could be playing for all the marbles.
Be
Yeah, and
multiple
that's the Northern
Junes too.
California Championship.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And Del Oro softball's been a power since the 1980s. Mike Takayama was the coach there in the 80s and 90s when they were section power. 500 games, the Del Oro girls basketball coach. He rest in peace, a good man. He died a few years ago, and so just really cool and just outstanding in the competition. The Sierra Foothill League, we talked about that last week. I'm going to talk about a pitcher from the Sacramento City Unified School District, Kennedy High School in Greenhaven. 4-year varsity player, 3-year starter, most experienced player on the team. And people say you throw like a girl. And in a Sacramento Bee story I did on Lady Fukaka, on Lainey Fukaka, I said, she is a girl. That's our news bulletin. She is not a novelty act. She's not on the varsity baseball team because of some kind of statement. She's earned it. Corey, who's the stat keeper, doesn't sugarcoat. We all know stat keepers that fudge ERAs and all that. She has 2 of her team's 4 wins. She throws a wicked curveball. She's about 5'10", a great student. She's going to play baseball as a relief pitcher in college at Emerson College, a small Division III college in Boston. She's getting an academic scholarship. She has earned this. This is a cool story. It's one of the funnest stories I've ever done. Just posted it on sacramentobee.com, sacbee.com. And her father says the opposing players have been pretty good. The parents have been pretty nasty, including mothers at games who are saying, "Don't you dare strike out against a girl," or the snarky, why isn't she on the softball team? And the dad will say, because she's a baseball player. And so that's cool. She struck out 11 in a game once. She last year, she once struck out a guy to end an inning and he tipped his cap to her. So that was a great compliment. She was playing West Park a couple of weeks ago. And I wrote this is what I put in the Sacramento State. She's also quick with the comebacks. And facing West Park or Roseville in a recent Metro League game, Fukaka was asked by a Panthers player if she had noticed his pitcher. He said he might need a date. Said Fukaka, how tall is he? Bam, baby. I mean, there's her wit and charm and all that. And she's taking her curveball to college. So just really, he's a single father. She applauds him. Corey, who's a teacher in the Sac City Unified for 25 years. One of the cool stories, check it out on sacbee.com. I've been around a long time, guys. I've never heard of a varsity baseball player who was a girl. We've heard of the girl kicker in other sports, but this is really unique. And the team is struggling. They didn't have a junior varsity team last year. They don't even have a home field as upgrades are being done on their Greenhaven campus. They've had 124 errors. She's the first to say, hey, I could be better. We could all be better. They're trying to learn the game. Her attitude is fantastic. She's got a championship attitude. I applaud it. And she also said about the heckling, hey, there's pressure being a girl playing baseball. She goes, but I'm not going to take criticism from somebody I wouldn't ask advice from. So boom, there's another bam. But Lainey Fukaka of Kennedy High School baseball is a champion, even though her one-loss record doesn't show it. But she also understands, guys, that it ain't just about wins and losses. It will be in college, but right now you're trying to have fun. I think she's fantastic, and I applaud it.
Hey, she earned it, right? That's why she's on the team. She earned it. If you don't like your kid striking out, then maybe work on it, right? Who cares if you got struck out by a boy or girl? She's earned that. That criticism stinks. I would hate to hear that, but she's got an attitude better than most adults with that. And I can tell you one thing, when she's in the business world, whatever career she chooses someday, coaching, business world, whatever it is, she's going to be much better for it. And she's going to be a lot stronger than anybody else because of what she's doing in her youth and what she's been through and how she's overcome everything.
And it's because baseball is like life. You're going to have failures. You're going to get knocked down. How do you respond? And her father is so proud. He got her into baseball. She self-taught her a curveball. So she's got this great appetite of learning. It's just really cool. And let's talk really quick also about the transfer portal, Sacramento State football. Brennan Marion, this fantastic first-year coach. 40 FCS transfers are coming this way. That's the most in the country. Some of them are three-star prospects, some of them four-star. All of them want a fresh chance. Brennan Marion's pitch is 1 year can change your life. Whether we have you for 1 year and then you transfer to the FBS or you get into the draft or something, we can help your dreams. They're trying to get a new football stadium. They applied for a waiver to the NCAA to go independent, which means no conference, in their effort to go to the FBS. They're at the lower level FCS. It's really interesting. But you had some questions, Chris Jackson, about one of their guys, a name that you know, Northern California knows, who just arrived over the weekend via the transfer portal.
Yeah, Jaden Rashada moving in. He's right. We've seen his name with the lawsuit at the University of Florida, his various stops. Right now, the question is, Joe, I'll ask you at the end, do you think this is his permanent final college stop? Right? Because he had the different three-time college commitments, right? You look at it. He was Miami, Florida for a while, then decommitted spring ball January 20th, 2023 because of the whole ordeal that's been chronicled very well. The lawsuit that unfolded with NIL, went to Arizona State, where he started a couple of games, started the first two games, played in the third against Arizona in that season finale, and then he's already made a couple of stops, right? That Arizona stop, which was also a commitment, and then Georgia this past year. He was also at three high schools, right? He was at Liberty of Brentwood for his freshman year. Now, the quarterback ahead of him, Jaden Rashada, didn't start, but that's because it was Jay Butterfield, the four-star who went to Oregon and San Jose State. He was at IMG Academy not long, I want to say a few weeks, a month, but I believe he had some sort of injury. It was a COVID year. A lot of crazy things happened. Then he moved back to Pittsburgh High his sophomore season, split reps with Eli Brickhandler, who I'm sure a lot of people in the Sac Joaquin section remember the name, played at Whitney High School, actually went to a section championship. That kid's played Division I football. He's got a kid now as well and really doing good things, but it's Jaden Rashada then started the final 2 years. He was a junior full-time starter, a senior full-time starter, threw for nearly 5,300 yards, a four-star prospect, right? Went to a state championship game, a NorCal championship game, won section titles. Yes, he's bounced around a lot. Yes, there's a lot of questions of all of that stuff. Why hasn't he really been a full-time starter at this level? But there's a lot that goes into it. I will say he's taken a lot of criticism. I get it. But there was probably not a more respectful kid I covered in high school than him. His character, the way he got to know everybody. This is a kid with a lot of character, great academically. It's just a matter of finding the right home. Maybe this is it. The talent's there. He was a four-star for a reason. I remember our first camp actually at Game Fit, hosted by Lem Adams, who's now on the Sacramento State staff, right? It kind of comes full circle all these years later. We had not watched someone with a better arm than that. Yes, it was a camp, but you could see the talent, the mechanics, the motion, everything was as good as I've seen at this level. And there was a comparison then, I think in 2022 by a 247 scout that said Jared Goff is a great comparison. You see why, right? 6'4", slender frame, but great mechanically. Now it's just for Jaden Rashada putting it together, developing. Sacramento State might be the perfect spot for him. I hope it is. I'm never going to root against the kid. He's had a lot of stops. There's a lot of questions there, of course, just because when you've had so many high school stops, so many college stops, but maybe he's found his home in Brennan Marion, that go-go offense, and being with Lem Adams, reunited with a guy like that is exactly what it is. But Joe, I'd love to just know more. You would have more until how this came about and how he kind of fits into that quarterback room. It's early, right? He hasn't been there long, but how he fits into that quarterback room and if you kind of think this is his last stop at college.
I would think it's going to be his last stop, and he's not promised anything. And just because he was a four-star and he was at, big colleges and he was at Georgia doesn't mean he's going to be guaranteed. They have a returning starter with the Sacramento State Hornets, and Carson Conklin out of Los Angeles. He was the starter last year. Magical player, really good. This is going to add to their competition. They also brought in another quarterback via the transfer portal. And Brennan Marion, I asked him during spring ball, I said, you can never have too much talent, and competition's good. They want competition, everything competitive, every drill. In college football, and sometimes we even see it in high school, you need two quarterbacks. Guys get clobbered in college football. These safeties and linebackers, their closing speed, there's rush ends, these defensive tackle, they will maul you. They want to devour you. So you're going to need two quarterbacks. Sacramento State won three Big Sky Conference championships since 2019 with two different quarterbacks. So that's going to be interesting to see. I think there's been some erroneous reporting, just generalized on social media, that Sac State emptied the vault to give him NIL money. No, there's no, and he's going to be the starter. Well, no, he hasn't even worked out yet. So it just all adds up to some great intrigue for Sac State football, and with basketball with Mike Bibby on board and the go offense with Brendan Marion. I think it's really cool, and let's fire up football camp and see what these guys can do. And it's going to be interesting. And that's the one thing we don't like about the portal, Jordan, as I throw to you here, is guys do come and go, but you can't argue their intent in finding the best situation for them. And I think Lem Adams played a big role here. Chris Jackson, his familiarity with that. So it'll be interesting. The portal does help both ways. Sac State wants to build its roster right away through the portal. Why not? We've seen it happen otherwise. But transfers are not new, and they will continue to happen whether they're high school guys or college guys.
Absolutely. And Joe, like you said, 1 year can change your life, and the portal is a big part of that. Just ask Cam Scatterbo. I mean, do you think he's getting drafted if he doesn't go to Arizona State last year? Or do you think maybe he signs as an undrafted free agent and is trying to earn a spot somewhere if he stays at Sac State? Or ask the number one overall pick, Cam Ward. I mean, goes from no offers, goes to Incarnate Word, transfers to Washington State, where he was projected to be a seventh round pick last year, and he ends up the number one overall pick because he transfers to Miami rather than going to the draft. So, I mean, 1 year really can change people's lives. And as much bad as the transfer portal does, I also think it has a lot of good when you have cases like Scatterbo, like Cam Ward. Rashada in this case he's going to be getting an opportunity at Sac State that he's not necessarily going to be getting at Georgia, where he has a chance to earn reps and earn this starting job. And at Georgia, there's 5 4 and 5 star guys in that quarterback room at a minimum. So it's a good opportunity for these players. And sometimes, as much as we say there's no loyalty in college sports, and I think we do need to I do love the loyalty and the passion. I'm also a firm believer of go where it fits. And there's times where kids will go to a school and realize this isn't what was sold to me when I committed here. This isn't a good fit. I don't mesh well with this coach. I don't mesh well with the players. I might be homesick, whatever it is. So going to where it fits, to where a player has the best chance to succeed. I'm never going to knock a player for that. And I mean, it's a huge get for Sac State, but the people that are saying, oh, they emptied the bag to get him at Sac State. Well, then why didn't anyone else empty the bag to go get him? Because if whatever Sac State's emptying the bag, you're telling me Ole Miss couldn't empty the bag for that too, or Texas or whoever else. And I think it's a great fit, and kudos to Sac State. I know they've rubbed some people wrong with how this whole potential move to the FBS has gone and the way they're going about it. But at the same time, they are making their strides and letting it be known that we no longer want to be an FCS program. We want to play big time college football. We want to move to that highest level, and they're doing it with basketball too. That push they're making for the Pac-12, they're putting their money where their mouth is right now.
No, I agree. Well said. Well said. We're going to sign off with that. We will keep posted with through Jordan on social media and Gold Country Media on what the appeal is going to be for Del Oro baseball. Do they have to forfeit all those games? Is it going to be a compromise? So that'll be real interesting. Chris Jackson is here, there, everywhere. Great stuff.
Hey, Joe, wait,
on social media.
we've got an email in our inbox actually that we can go to now, right? I think
Well, I'm throwing to you, sir. Any
so
emails?
Stooges Podcast at gmail.com is the email. Got one of our friends from the Sutter Yuba area that actually emailed in. I think we're going to know who this is Jordan, I think I'll let you kind of guess who it is after. How y'all Stooges doing? My name is Dirty J, longtime follower and love the work, but first time questioner. Chris and Joe, y'all are the best hands down. Now for the other Florida State bum with the shaggy beard. We'll keep those comments to myself. Side question for the FSU man. Do you know where I can send you a real championship t-shirt or hat or something like the Florida Gators? Man, they're the best. They invented Gatorade down there. What have those FSU guys ever contributed to this great land? Anyway, Stooges, with playoffs coming up, and all for baseball and softball. What are the best championship games y'all have covered that have just left you all stunned? Not to brag, but man, watching my Gators chomp those Cougars, man, that was special. Hey, Jordan. Anyways, love the work. See you all around town. Dirty J is a huge fan. Y'all should have a chat line or voicemail so I can call in often and lay some bum smack.
There you
A
go.
good
What,
feeling
what
I
a
know
great
who that
email.
is. I think that is our favorite Dirty J or Dirty journalist, Steven over at YSBC Sports, um, throwing his little gator shots at me. I'll say
He's a
this.
good man.
Yeah, great guy, friend of the program. If I had to pick the best championship games I've covered, I mean, how do you not say that Rockland Jesuit basketball game this last year? At Golden One Center a couple months ago. And then the other one too that comes to mind right off the bat is a couple Granite Bay games. The Granite Bay Elk Grove baseball game last year, the bunt fest that went into extra innings because some reporters in the area may have jinxed it by saying the game was moving too fast, and we go to extra innings. That was a great game. And then another one is the Granite Bay Manteca section championship football game a few years ago where Florida State commit Blake Nicholson scored, I think, 3 or 4 touchdowns in the first quarter. Looked like Manteca was going to steamroll him. Granite Bay ends up coming back and had a 2 point conversion with, I think, 20 seconds left that would have tied the game. It doesn't go through, but the final score was something like 56-54, something like that. That was just an incredible game too. So I've got to give the nod to those three for my best championship games.
Yeah, that Granite Bay Elk Grove game is up there. And that was the same night as the Granada de La Salle thing, right? I wasn't there. I know Greg was covering that game for us, but the game that goes 2 days, right? The North Coast Section Division One championship, Granada ends up winning that in 2 days, winning NorCal. But that was probably one of the best weekends I've ever seen. I look back at the whole Grant State championship run this past year, how they won the section championship, NorCal, on that state game, that game-winning drive again. Luke Alexander, Kobe Shabazz, Zoe Edwards. That was unbelievable. And last year as well, Oak Ridge, Amador Valley. NorCal softball championship goes extra innings. We have a 30-minute delay because one of the older umps, I believe, got heat stroke. I think I heard after that he was all okay, which is good to know. But it was, what, 95 degrees, really hot day. Being an umpire's outfit, it probably felt like 120 degrees. So we have that layer in there. Comebacks, times where you think Oak Ridge is going to win it. Oh, no, wait, Kaylee Davis, Cal Poly pitcher commit, signee, and hit some home runs, doubles, whatever the heck it was. That game, I don't know if it went 9 innings, 10 innings. I didn't want that season to end anyway. So for that game to go extra innings and it didn't end until like 8 p.m., I was like, thank goodness, because I was not ready for that whole school year, that whole sports season to end. But those are probably the ones, at least for me, that are right up at the top.
Oh, so now I'm going to age myself. I'm going to think of a great baseball finish in game was 1998. McClatchy Lions of the Sac City Unified played Vallejo and took on ace CC Sabathia days after he was picked in the first round as a power pitcher, 6'6" power pitcher by the Cleveland Indians. So that's when the draft was still going on, and now they got to face this guy. So they lost. It was a best of three series against Vallejo, McClatchy Vallejo, and Vallejo won the first game and only needs to win the second game with their ace to win the championship. But somehow, some way, great coaching by Brian LaFord of the McClatchy Lions, and they scratch and claw to get on base. They steal bases and they win that game. Then win the next one, won their championship. They have that big banner out there at the outfield fence of their new refreshed digs. And Chris Jackson, you saw that just last week. So that was cool. I think football. Gosh, there's been so many good ones. I'll go with the Grant Pacers 2008 winning the state open division against nationally ranked number two Long Beach Poly with a late minute drive to win it. Capelli Conacetti was the star quarterback who relaxed earlier that day by playing a classic piano in the team hotel. I mean, how's that for composure? Then he goes out there and dials up a good tune. We invite questions. we invite people to send us questions about the CIF and transfers and this or that, and we will do our best to answer those. We could go all day here, but for Joe Davidson, Chris Jackson, the bearded wonder, the great bearded, that's a great beard. And Bryla's right. Hey, Bryla, don't knock the beard until you could match the beard. But Jordan
Jealousy,
Jorgensen and
that's what
everybody.
it is with him.
But Jordan, we never got
Exactly.
your answer about where can we get Florida championship gear.
I
You,
don't
you,
know, probably
you-
Goodwill or the garbage or something. And another championship game I
Oh,
forgot to talk about. How about Florida State beating Auburn in 2014? We weren't covering it, but that's the best championship game I can think of right there.
Actually, we forgot to mention the Casa Robo one in 2023 in football,
Oh yeah.
where Chris Horner's son, I think the fourth read on the play gets the 2 points try to win. But I think that's probably
Ethan Horner, he of the great hair. Here's Ethan Horner, who just got this great scholar athlete award through the Dale Lackey through the Sac Joaquin section. So he's a great scholar, great student, great leader, all Metro player. He catches the winning 2-point conversion. And unlike his father, who is, has got as much hair as I do, Chris Horner, the son's got this flowing rock and roll hair, just really cool, the good life. There's been so many. This is why we do this. This is why we cover this stuff, because there's always another great storyline and another great team in the works, and we don't know what's happening tomorrow. And we're not fans of having to do stories on ineligibilities or forfeits and all that, but we have to cover it. That's part of it. And we do the best we can. And I appreciate you guys. We appreciate our listeners and followers. And until next week, we'll see everybody.